Okay, guys, we're back for video number 3, third topic anyway. I know we had 3 parts on chapter 27. Sorry about that, but there's a lot of information there. I want to make sure we covered some of that in detail because it is such a safety item, okay? And so then we did task sheet 86, okay? So now what I'm going to do here is just show you some of these components that I've got. So I'm going to be taking this camera on and off the stand a little bit so that we can look at some of this stuff. But I want to show you just a couple of tools, a couple of procedures for like getting the airbag out of the steering wheel and things like that. So just a few little minor things here. This shouldn't be a very long video, okay? So I do have safety glasses here. We talked about that, so it's a good idea to always wear safety glasses around the airbag. So I've got these safety glasses. And it talks about in our book too about having some gloves on just in case. So I do have some gloves here I'm going to go ahead and put on for our video today. These are really nice Max Grip gloves they're called. You got these little deals on the bottom of them for gripping. Kind of like them for certain things. I've got a lot of different types of gloves for different situations. Okay, so again, I've got several items here. I'm going to take this camera off of the stand here, show you some of this stuff, and then put it back on the stand, and then show you some of the little procedures and stuff, okay? All right, so stay with me here. All right, so let's start down here on this end. So here I have a passenger side airbag, okay? So that ought to be the big boom for today. We're going to do that in the next video. Passenger side airbag, and it's a single stage. It just has one connector, and it has those shorting bars inside there. You see those 2 vertical bars in there next to the terminals? Yeah, that's the shorting bars inside there, okay? And when you unplug that, it puts those 2 circuits together so there's not a short or not any electrostatic discharge. And when you plug it in, here's the other end, when you plug this in, it opens up those shorting bars, moves them out of the way so that we have a normal connection, okay? So that's just to help maintain and keep that static from causing a problem, okay? Here's our SDM. Again, it has the arrow on it, and you note that it has 1, 2, 3 holes, but it doesn't have a hole over here. So this thing will only mount in one direction, okay? Right here I have one of those front end discriminating sensors, okay? And it has a little bracket on it too, comes on it. So a pigtail there. But again, you notice it has a yellow connector on it. So this is what one of those sensors looks like. See, the bolts come through this way. So it bolts to the front of the radiator support on this particular car, bolts right to it. One on the left side, one on the right side. Okay? So here is one of those pretensioners. Okay? So this is the buckle side. All right? It has a cable on it there. And that cable will pull down and pull through there when it activates. And so your seat belt connects to it right there. All right? All right. So here I have 2 steering wheel airbags, okay? This one for the Chevrolet here is a single stage airbag. Notice that it just has one connector on the back side of it. All right. And somebody's fired up a lawnmower. Thanks for that. All right. No problem. So then we have another airbag here, the GMC, and it has 2 connectors on the back. So obviously that's like the stage 1 and the stage 2. This also is the one for the wiring diagram that we looked at earlier in our task sheet. See, it's the GMC, came out of the Envoy. Okay, here's the steering wheel that it came out of too. So I'll show you some more about that steering wheel in a minute. All right. So we have also here we have a brand new SI coil or clock spring. Okay, and notice that it comes with this little yellow tab in it. Okay, so that it's already centered that way. So once you put it on, I think it actually goes on maybe this direction. But anyway, once you put it on the steering column in the right place and has 4 screws holds it on there, then you pull that little yellow tab out and the thing is centered. Okay, all right. There's another one like that. And then here's a different one here with different kind of connections on it. There we go. All right, has the yellow connector there and the one on this end also. So they come in all different shapes and sizes. This one over here is kind of interesting. This is the one out of the steering column for this Yukon. Not Yukon. This Envoy. And notice it has several wires on it. It has the 2-stage connectors there. All right, and then there's another wire here, or a connector here for all the steering wheel controls that it has. It has all those steering wheel controls. So those steering wheel controls and the airbag wiring and the horn all go down through this clock spring, okay? And the clock spring can turn, see, like this. Notice it turns. So it can turn, and usually there's about 2.5 to 3 turns from center each direction. So this thing is hardwired in here, see? It's part of this connector here. It comes down and plugs into this big connector here, and then part of this connector right here, this part of it too. Okay, so that's our airbag part. Okay, so that one has quite a few wires connected to it, pretty much there. Didn't mean to go fishing here. Here we go. All right, so that one takes a little bit to do to change it, but it's in the steering column. We have the ignition switch right here also, and then our big connector at the bottom. So they may look a little different. They all do the same thing. That allows our connection between here, okay, between our connection here that goes back to the module and our connection here that plugs onto the back of the airbag, right, to be a continuous thing all the way through there, even while you're turning the steering wheel, okay? Because on the older model cars, they used a slip ring. And this is what a slip ring looks like, okay? When you just had a horn, this is the back side of the slip ring, and the horn contact went right through here, okay, and touched that little brass piece inside there. The spring looked a lot like this, okay, went in that hole for the horn, and then on the back side, it just actually set down on a little button on the back side, and then where the turn signal switch was. And so as you turn the wheel, the turn signal switch stayed still, of course, and then this part turned with the wheel. Therefore, you had a contact for the horn. Well, now that we have all these other circuits in there, plus we have the airbag in there, and we don't want that to happen that way. Okay? All right, so we have several parts there, and looks like that's about all of the parts there we have. All right, let's talk about tools a little bit. Okay? So this is a 3.5 millimeter T Allen wrench. Okay, it's very handy. I'm going to show you how that works here in a minute. And then here's an airbag release tool also. Okay, that one's a little tricky to do. Okay, and then of course we have a multimeter over here. All right, and our multimeter, okay, is, like I said before, we're just going to use that for ohms. Okay, we're going to be able to check if we need to continuity between, you know, this end and this end, and make sure that wire is good all the way through. We're just going to check end to end, things like that. We're not going to check the airbag itself with our ohm meter, okay? Not going to do it that way. All right. Okay. So, because our ohm meter puts out some voltage, right? And we don't want to test that. All right. I'm going to put this. I think that's about it, like that. That's all of our different parts that I have here at the house, anyway. Okay. All right. So we've got passenger side, driver side. We've got discriminating sensors, several different coils there, slip ring, pre-tensioner here, and then steering wheel, then a couple of tools here. All right, let me put this back on here. Maybe that lawnmower's quit now. It's kind of distracting me a little bit. I don't know about y'all. Okay, here we go. Then we'll take this glove off. All right, turn this around. There we go. All right. Now I want to show you how this airbag attaches, okay, to the steering wheel and how it releases. All right. So we'll look at this Chevrolet one. They're both just alike here, though, in this respect. Even though this is the single stage deal. I'm going to tilt this camera just a little bit too for this. All right, so that we can see this a little better. All right, since we have this single stage connection here, but you notice these two posts right here, okay? These posts is beveled on the end, and then it has a slot in it right here, okay? Can you see that? Yeah. See that slot on the end and that bevel? Okay, remember that, all right? Well, those two posts then go right down into these two holes right here, this one and this one. So when you put it together, you attach this to the back side of well, you don't even attach, you attach that to the, once it's inside there, the SIR coil, I'm sorry. You attach that to the SIR coil, plug in all your connections. See if I can get these lights right, okay? But then once you get it together, that's pretty easy. It just snaps in there, boom. It's like a lot of things the engineers make. It just snaps in there really easy. But getting it apart, sometimes it's a little harder, but this one's not too bad. So you see on the side of the steering wheel, there's a hole right here. See that? There's one on both sides, okay? And so there is a spring, and it's has a long spring in it right here. It's got a coil up here, but then it has a long section here. So when you put that post in there on the back side of that airbag, it goes right in this hole, and that spring catches into that slot that was on that post. So what we do to release that, you're back here in the light, take this, put this in the hole, and then watch that spring move. See it? See that spring move out of that hole? I can see it right there. Hold that right there. So it's right here. See that long spring? Or it's part of the spring. Okay? Moves right over. Okay, when it moves over, then that airbag pops up on that side. Then you do the same thing over here on the other side. Okay? So that's what releases it. So once that snaps together, it's got a little bit of tension on it. Plus there's a spring right here on the back of this. This is where your horn contact is actually. For the horn is these two bars right here. They have springs on them too. Okay? So that's how that goes together. That's how it comes apart. Not too bad. Not too bad. All right. I think I've already mentioned this one here. This one here is a real pain to do, but yeah, you got to get on the back side of there, and you got to move that two springs at once, like that on one side, and then you go to the other side and move two more springs on the other side. And so when you do that, the other side usually snaps back in. So then you've got to put something in behind there to hold it. Then it gets too tight, and then it's really quite a trick to do. And then, like I say, some of them just bolt in from the back side. Those aren't too bad. You know, it's made a little differently right here, and it's bolted in, and you unbolt it, and the airbag comes off. Those aren't too bad. So there's several different kinds, several different ways that happens. Okay. All right. While we're here, I wanted to show you this connector on this again. So again, they're yellow, and again, we got 3 spots, but it just has the lock for the connector here. It comes off, and then the connector comes out, and it's sealed. It's weather packed. Okay. There's a weather packed seal, that green seal right there, and keeps that clean inside. You can kind of see in there. You see it's even yellow on the inside of it there, right? Yeah. And they're gold in color also, those connections there. So we don't want any kind of extra resistance there, remember. We're only working with about 2.5 to 3 ohms of resistance in those deployment loops. So, all right. So what has happened in the past, well, let me get this camera fixed and I'll tell you that. I think that's all we got there. So that snaps on there, good click there. Then this little red part, lock, goes right back in there, snaps in. When you hear that little snap, you know it's good. locks in on both sides. Okay? Very important that all that stuff be in place. All right, so we've looked at all those parts there, I believe. All right. Let me bring this camera back up. Take these off. Okay. All right, so that gives us a little bit of a look at some of the parts here up close, kind of what they look like, how to get that airbag, how the airbag goes in, how it comes back out. It's not too bad on most of them, like I say. What I was going to say about this connector here, though, is that several years ago they had a problem with, remember I told you where these were mounted at, right? Most of them were mounted in the floor. So what happens is sometimes if the car gets flooded, right? Excuse me there. The car gets flooded, it just gets water around it, over it. If there's not a good seal there, you can get some moisture inside there. And that moisture, you know, corrodes those connectors, terminals in there, terminals, not connectors, but the terminals, and can cause some resistance. And I know specifically Cadillac had a few of them that got in a flood, you know, like in a hurricane or something. Then these cars set down on the coast. And then, oh, maybe a month or maybe 2 months later, the customer gets in the car and turns the key on, right, and everything powers up, and boom, the airbag blows up in their face because of that got corroded inside there. You got some circuits shorted together that was not good at all. So they've made some improvements on these. They still have to mount them to the floor, but they've made some improvements on these connectors, okay, so that that doesn't happen. So that was really not a good deal. They had a few of those Cadillacs that I know of back in the 90s when I was a Cadillac that happened on. So things like that happen from time to time, just so you know about that. It's important for these connections to be clean and that they're tight as far as terminals are concerned. Okay. Well, that's about 16 minutes we're into this one. So that's about all I had for this particular section here. I don't want you guys to see these parts and the tools that we're using. Again, the scan tool, I don't have a scan tool here, but the scan tool is your really best tool for diagnosing a problem. It's going to give you the code. It's also going to let you look at those deployment loops, the resistance in them. And really, it's really easy usually to find that bad resistance. You just find the connectors that are in between the module and the bag. And you might not be able to see the problem, but if you unplug it and plug it back in, usually that resistance goes back to normal. Sometimes all you got to do is touch the wire. Okay, so we did a lot of repairs like that on vehicles to repair those connectors and connections to resolve airbag codes. Okay, that's probably the most common problem that goes wrong with them is just those connectors and the connections there, and that high or low resistance that happens. It's probably I've replaced very few airbags because the bag itself was bad. I mean, very, very few. Pretensioners, seat belts, any of that stuff. It's usually just a bad connection because it's such a low resistance circuit and a low voltage circuit. It's so sensitive to resistance changes. Okay, so that's really the main thing. If you've got a scan tool that reads that, you can fix it. It's no problem at all. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this video up. Again, thanks for watching. So the next video, we're going to blow this stuff up. What do you say? All right? Thanks.